Hello learners, I am Dr. Jitendra Kumar Singh. I am a psychologist. Today or in this program, I am going to talk on a topic called nature and determinants of development. As you have been growing from childhood to adolescence, you must have observed change in yourself. One of the most important features of all living beings is change. The change are most striking when we see the transition in human life spanning from conception to death. The journey from an unborn baby to an adult and then on to an old person is very fascinating. Even a casual observation of the human lives around you will make it clear that several changes happens each day in our bodies and psychological functioning. Some changes are noticeable when some cannot be immediately or clearly observed. Some of these changes are determined more by hereditary or genetic factors, while some depend more on environmental and cultural factors. Different cultures hold different goals for development and use different strategies to bring up children. In order to help individuals develop in the best way possible, it is important to understand the nature and process of development through the lifespan. In this lesson, we will learn about the nature of development and distinguish it from other related concepts. The important domains and stages of human development, major genetic and environmental influences on human development. We will also learn about the effects of environmental factors on perinatal as well as postnatal development. Do you know what is meant by the term development and what are its characteristics? Let us know what is meant by development and its characteristics. You may be curious to know how the process of development takes place. The term development is generally used to refer to the dynamics process of which an individual grows and changes throughout its lifespan. It is often thought of as a process of qualitative change taking place from conception to death. In this way, development is a broad term and deals with all areas including physical, motor, cognitive, physiological, social, emotional and personality. It should be noted that development in all these areas are interrelated. For example, a 13-year-old girl undergoes physical and biological changes in her body, and such changes are in turn related to her mental, social and emotional development. As you are aware of the fact that life begins at conception when mother's ovum fertilized by the father's sperm and a new organism is created. From that point till death, an individual keeps on changing. Such changes are not random, but orderly and generally follow a pattern. It must be noted that developmental changes are not always incremental or evolutionary. They may also involve a decline in the functioning called involution. A child loses milk teeth in the process of development, while an old adult may show decay in memory and physical functioning. Development therefore is best viewed as a gain-loss relationship in which newer and different kinds of change take place. Older behaviors patterns may lose their salience while new ones may emerge. Do you know that both heredity and environment have influence on development? Development is shaped by the joint influences of both nature and nurture in a cultural context. Nature refers to the hereditary contribution a child receives from parents at the time of conception. Genetics determines several aspects of a person's physical structural functioning as well as some psychological characteristics. To a certain extent, nurture refers to the influence of the complex physical and social ecology in which we develop and grow. Various aspects of the child's ecology, for example, physical facilities, social institutions and rituals and schools, influence the development outcomes in important ways. Now, let us describe some of the key concepts related to development. The term development is often used interchangeably with growth and maturation, but these terms need to be carefully distinguished. Growth generally refers to the quantitative additions or changes in the organic structure. For instance, as we become older, the body size, height, weight, proportion of parts of our body change in measurable ways. Also, the vocabulary increases. Development, on the other hand, is a broader term which often includes growth, but is used more to refer to functional and qualitative changes in cognitive ability, perceptual ability, personality and emotional development and so on. Maturation is a term that refers to natural unfolding of changes with increasing age. For example, hormonal changes as the individual reaches puberty. An example of this can be seen in breast development, which is influenced by release of estrogen when a girl reaches adolescence. Maturation refers to change which are primarily biological in nature and occur due to our genetic program. Our biological structure follows a predetermined course of change with time. This can be seen in the development of teeth during childhood. Changes in body proportion with age provide an example of such predetermined universal trends. The size of the head is roughly half of the whole body at birth, but the proportion keeps decreasing until adulthood, when it is less than 1/4 of the whole body. Therefore, maturational changes in our body are primarily due to the aging process rather than learning or other factors such as illness or injuries. It must be noted that change in behavior also occur due to learning. Learning takes place as a result of a person's interaction with the environment. Maturation provides the raw material and sets the stage for learning to occur. Taking the case of learning to read, the child needs to be biologically ready. The eyes need to develop proper focusing ability before a child can learn to read. Therefore, maturation and learning jointly bring about changes in a person's behavior. Evolution is a term that refers to a specific changes. Evolutionary changes happen very gradually and are passed on to from one generation to the other, so that the species is better equipped for survival. The evolution from apes to human beings took place over a period of about 14 million years. Changes that occur at the level of a species are called phylogenetic, and those that occur at the level of individual are called ontogenetic. The term evolution is also used to describe the incremental changes that takes place in the course of development. We can now summarize the characteristics feature of development to help us distinguish it from other kinds of changes. Number 1, development is a lifelong process spanning from conception till death. Second, development changes are systematic, progressive and orderly. They usually follow a pattern proceeding from general to specific and from simple to complex and integrated levels of functioning. Third, development is multidirectional, that is, some areas may show a sharp increase while others may show a decline. Developmental changes usually involve an increase in maturity towards higher level of functioning, for example, increase in vocabulary size and complexities, but it may also involve a decrease or loss such as in bone density or memory in old age. Fourth, moreover, the rate of growth and development is not always constant. Plateaus are often seen in the pattern of development, indicating periods of no apparent improvement. Fifth, developmental changes can be quantitative, for example, increase in height with age, or qualitative, for example, formation of moral values. Sixth, development is both continuous as well as dichotomous process. Some changes may occur very rapidly and be overtly visible, such as appearance of the first tooth, while some changes may not be sharp enough to be observed easily in day-to-day functioning, such as understanding of grammar. Seventh, developmental changes are relatively stable. The temporary changes due to weather, fatigue or other chance factors will not qualify as development. Eighth, developmental changes are multidimensional and interrelated. They may happen together in many areas at a time or can occur one at a time. During the adolescence, there are rapid changes in the body as well as in emotional, social and cognitive functioning. Ninth, development is highly plastic or flexible. This means that the same person may suddenly show greater improvement in a particular area than expected from the past rate of development. An enriched environment can produce unexpected changes in the physical strength or in memory and intelligence level. 10th, development is contextual. It is influenced by historical, environmental, social factors. The loss of a parent, an accident, a war, an earthquake and child rearing customs are examples of factors which may influence development. 11th, there are considerable individual differences in the rate or tempo of developmental changes. These differences could be due to hereditary factors or environmental factors. Some children can be very precocious for their age, while some children show developmental delays. For example, though an average child begins to speak 3-word sentence around 3 years, there will be some children who have mastered this much before 2 years, while there will be some who are not able to speak full sentences even by 4 years. Moreover, there will be some children who are not able to speak even beyond the upper limit of range. Domains of development. Now, I am going to talk to you. As you have noted, development is an inclusive term that incorporates changes in several areas. Let us learn about these areas. These areas are called domains, dealing with 3 broad categories. First, physical and motor development. It refers to change in body size and structure, functioning of various body systems, brain development, perceptual and motor development. Second, cognitive development. It refers to the development of cognitive and intellectual processes, including memory, attention, intelligence, academic knowledge, problem solving, imagination and creativity. It also includes development of language. Third, socio-emotional development. It refers to how we develop relationships with other people and how our emotions emerge and change as we grow older. It includes emotional communication and self-control, understanding of self and others, interpersonal skills, personality and emergence of friendship and moral reasoning. These domains or areas are interrelated and combined in a holistic manner to make a person's developmental pattern unique. Each domain influences and is influenced by others. As a baby develops physically, several motor skills are acquired. As the baby becomes capable of grasping, reaching, sitting, crawling, standing and walking, he or she is able to better explore the environment, resulting in further cognitive development. Improved thinking and understanding helps formation of better social relations as well as emotional expression and comprehension. On the whole, each domain helps the child move towards enriched experience, learning and overall development. Even though development is a continuous process, some theorists believe that various stages can be identified for the sake of locating major shifts and determining the development task. This helps in monitoring the pace of developmental changes. It must be pointed out that there is no sharp dividing line between them. Each stage has certain characteristics, features, and prepares the ground for the next stage. Some theorists have suggested stages in specific areas of development. For instance, Piaget identified stages of cognitive development and Freud suggested stages of psychosexual development. Most psychologists identify these stages of development. First, prenatal period, that is from conception to birth. In this period, the single-celled organism changes into a human baby within the womb. Second, infancy and toddlerhood, that is from birth up to 2 years. Rapid changes in the body and brain helps several sensory, motor, social, cognitive capacities to emerge during this stage. Then the next is early childhood, that is from 2 to 6 years. In this stage, motor skills are refined, language develops, ties are formed with peers and the child learns through play. The next stage is middle childhood, that is 6 to 11 years. These are school years when the child acquire literacy skills, thought processes are refined, friendships emerge and self concepts is formed. Next stage is adolescence, that is the age of 11 to 20 years. In this period is marked by puberty, which signals the onset of rapid physical and hormonal changes, emergence of abstract thinking, sexual maturity, stronger peer ties, sense of self, autonomy from parental control. Next stage is early adulthood, that is it ranges from 20 to 40 years. This is the stage of life when the youngster leaves home for the sake of education or to find a career and to form intimate relationships leading to marriage and having children. Next stage is middle adulthood. It spans from 40 to 60 years. At this stage, the person is at the peak of his career. There is a need to help children being independent lives and to look after own parents who are aging. The last stage is late adulthood. It ranges from 60 years till death. This period is marked by retirement from work, decrease in stamina and physical health, bonding with grandchildren and dealing with impending old age and death of self and spouse. Though the stages of development are universally recognized, the exact age range is arbitrary and depends on cultural factors. In some cultures, for example, there is no distinct phase of adolescence with the stress associated with it. One simply moves from childhood to adulthood. The concept of old age is undergoing a change with enhanced medical health and cosmetic facilities. Lifespan expectancy had also increased and reached to 65 years in India. Now, let us learn about the life stages in the Indian setup. Ancient texts also view the human lifespan in terms of stages. Life is seen as a process of evolution in 4 stages known as ashram, which literally means a dwelling phase. There are 4 main ashrams. The first is brahmacharya. During this period, the major task is learning while living as a student under the guidance of a guru, which emphasizes on discipline and simple living. Next is grihasth. In this phase of life, an individual has to work and take on the responsibility of raising and maintaining a family within the social context. The third stage is banprasth. It is a period of seclusion after one has raised the family and completed the duties towards it. It requires severe discipline and austerity and sharing responsibility with the younger people. The last stage is sannyas. It is the final stage of life when one needs to achieve complete detachment from worldly objects, freedom from desire, and move towards ultimate self knowledge and renunciation from the world. These stages or ashrams are based on the principles that a human being should grow, participate, and discharge worldly duties and contribute to the progress and welfare of society and move towards liberation and spiritual growth. It is desired that older persons should give way to the younger generation. In this scheme, one lives in a web of obligations to society as well as environment, including all living beings such as animals and trees. It emphasizes coexistence with this whole living world rather than being a consumer and exploiting the environment for personal gains. You must have curious to know why child learns to stand before he or she walks and then runs, and when he or she goes to school learns to write. Each developmental stage is characterized by dominant feature or a leading characteristic which determines its uniqueness. For example, a child is expected to go to school and study while an adult is expected to work and raise a family. Certain characteristics stand more prominently than others, and each period is called a stage. People learn certain behavior patterns and skills more easily and successfully at certain stages, and this becomes a social expectation. For example, a child is supposed to be able to go independently to school in middle childhood. Such social expectations of a particular age common to all persons constitute developmental tasks. If a person is able to master that developmental task of a particular stage, he or she is considered to have successfully moved on to the next stage of development. It is important to understand the factors that determine the course of development. Each one of us is a product of genetic factors and environmental influences. The role of maturation and learning has already been described before in an earlier section. Let us now look at the contribution of heredity and environment in some detail. First, I will talk about genetic influences. At the time of conception, the ovum of the mother and the sperm cell of the father unite to form a new cell. The small particles in the nucleus of the cell are called chromosomes. The chromosomes exist in pairs. The human cell has 46 chromosomes arranged in 23 pairs. One member from each pair comes from the mother and the other one from the father. Chromosomes store and transmit genetic information. The genes which are the actual trait carriers are found in very numbers in each chromosomes. The fertilized zygote brings together various combinations of chromosomes. In this way, different genes are transferred from each child of the same set of parents. Due to this reason, each child bears greater similarity to his or her blood relatives than to anyone else. At the same time, there are also many differences among blood relatives. These are genotypes and phenotypes. Genetic transmission is a complex process. Most characteristics that we observe in human beings are combination of a large number of genes. Innumerable permutations and combinations of genes are reasonable for the large differences in physical and psychological characteristics. One identical monozygotic twins have exactly the same set of chromosomes and genes as they are formed by duplication of a single zygote. Most twins are fraternal or dizygotic who develop from two separate zygotes. The fraternal twins may resemble each other like brother and sister, but they will also be different from one another in many ways. Genes can be dominant or recessive. It is now fact that there is more color blindness or lack of sensitivity to certain colors among males than females. A grandmother and a mother can transmit this condition to the male child without being colors blind themselves. This is because in the male this disorder is dominant, whereas in the female it is recessive. The genes form pairs. If both genes in a pair are dominant, the individual will display the specific trait, for example, color blindness. If one gene is dominant and the other recessive, the dominant will prevail. The recessive gene will be passed on and may show up in a later generation. The dominant gene therefore is the one responsible for a particular trait to show up in a person. The characteristics which show up and are displayed, for example, eye color, are called phenotypes. The recessive gene does not show up as a trait unless paired with another gene just like it. The characteristics that are carried genetically are recessive genes, but are not displayed are called genotypes. Genotype therefore refers to the actual genetic material or a person's genetic heritage, while phenotype refers to the individual's physical and behavioral characteristics, which are determined by both genetic and environmental factors. Now, I will talk about the influence of environment. Nature refers to what a child has inherited genetically from her parents, while the influence of environment on the development of the child is referred to as nurture. To understand the development of a person, we have to study the complex interaction between nature and nurture, or heredity and environment. Environmental influences are important both at the prenatal and postnatal stages of human development. At the prenatal stage, when a fetus is in the mother's womb, internal and external harmful agents such as certain legal or illegal drugs, alcohol, lead and pollutants can harm the unborn baby's development. The mother's nutrition, diseases and emotional stress can also affect the development of the fetus. After birth, several types of environmental factors operate to influence the development of the child. The ecological system theory of development views environment factors organized as concentric circles of a system. The microsystem is the immediate environment at home and interaction between them at the child's own characteristics. The mesosystem consists of the relationship between family members and a school and neighborhood. The exosystem refers to the influence of indirect agencies such as workplace or the parents or the community services. The macrosystem is the outermost layer, which includes cultural values, laws and customs. The system are ever changing and dynamic. There is also a chronosystem which refers to the time dimension. As the child grows, there are changes within each system and also changes due to the child's interaction with the environment. On the whole, in ecological system theory, children are both products and producers of their environment in a network of interdependent effects. The present view of development gives importance to both nature and nurture. Heredity and environment are inseparably interwoven, each affecting the impact of the other on the child. Development therefore has certain universal features as well as features unique to the individual. It is important to understand the role of heredity, but more fruitful to understand how the environment can be improved so as to help the child develop in the best possible way within the limits of set by heredity. Why are we studying development and its principles? An understanding of the principles and determinants of development helps us in several ways. First, it helps us to know what to expect of the individual's capability at a particular age. Number 2, it gives information on when to provide opportunities and stimulation for optimal development. Number 3, It helps to parents, teachers and others who work with children to prepare them for the physical and psychological changes that are to take place. Number 4, it helps us to be prepared for changes in our bodies and personalities as we grow older. Number 5, it helps us to understand that it is possible to facilitate the process of development by providing an enriched environment. This is all about the concept of development. I hope after listening to this lecture, you learn about what is development and many aspects associated with it. Thank you.